I was that person that like we
Right.
sourced from now. Like I didn't know what I had.
Welcome back, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for another reseller interview in my Going Full-Time series. Today, I spoke to my friend Chloe from Cuberly Chaos. Chloe has a YouTube channel, podcast, she goes to college, and she's also a full-time reseller. And in this fun conversation that we had, we talked about how she manages life in college while also being a successful business owner, and any challenges that she's been facing and what's next for her on her reseller journey. So I hope you'll join us for this fun-filled conversation and get some work done while you're listening. Hi, Chloe.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for making the time today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm so excited to talk to you because I think your perspective is going to be very different from everybody else who I've interviewed so far. So just to get us started, why don't you tell everybody who you are, what you do, and where they can find you online?
Yeah, so hi everyone. I'm Chloe from at Cuberly Chaos. If you don't know who I am, I'm a full-time reseller. I'm also a full-time college student, and I mainly sell on eBay and Poshmark. You can also find me on YouTube and Instagram at Cuberly Chaos. And then I also have a podcast called Thrifters Chaos. And yeah, I go to the University of California, Irvine, down in Southern California, and I'm actually going into my last year. So I will be graduating this year. Yeah.
That is exciting. So you're doing all the things, basically. You have a podcast, a YouTube channel, you go to school, you resell. And one thing I'm really curious about, and that I've been meaning to ask you for the longest time, but I've intentionally waited for us to have this conversation.
Yeah.
When you start your YouTube videos, you always introduce yourself as a part/full-time reseller. And I have to ask, where does the part-time end and the full-time begin? And what does it mean to you? And is it based on the time you put into it, the money you make? I have so many questions. So why part/full-time?
Yeah, so I actually stopped in the last couple of videos. I've started saying full time. I think that for a while I didn't know really how to describe myself because I was like, sometimes I put in full time hours. I'm making a full time enough income for a 21-year-old
Yeah.
who doesn't have like a ton of bills, but not necessarily like what a regular full-time posture would be. And I think also if I like attach that label to it, for me, something mentally was just blocking me as if like, oh, this is my full-time career. So I have to like go and put all this extra work into it. And so I think I don't know why it was bothering me to like just say full-time, but after a while I was like, okay, I'm definitely this is all I do, like aside from being a student. And I put in enough work to be able to label myself as full
Yeah.
time. So I should give myself the credit, I guess. But yeah, I think it was more of like a mental switch for me more than anything. I think it was more like I'm afraid to say full time and then not be able to like live up to what that means,
Mhm.
even though I feel like that for it means something different for everyone else. I just felt like I wasn't doing what other people that call themselves a full-time reseller do. And so I didn't feel right calling myself one. But then, yeah, I was like, that's dumb. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for you that you switched over. Yeah, and I think that's really part of the reason why I'm asking, but also part of the reason why I wanted to start the series and talk to different people, because full-time means so many different things to so many different people. You know, you can base it on the income that you make, you can base it on the hours you put in. Some people put in full-time hours but make what some would consider a part-time income, right? So it's really, there's so many different approaches to reselling, and I think there's so many interpretations of that full-time label. And that's usually why I start with that question, because I always want to know, what does it mean to you? Because that's what interests me, right?
Yeah.
And it might mean something different to you than what it would mean for me in my situation, right? So I'm excited that you're calling yourself a full-time reseller now, and you are still on summer break, I'm assuming.
Yes, I am for pretty much 2 more months. So we're on
Okay.
the quarter system, so we
Ah,
start really late, but we get out really late. So
gotcha. So being on an academic schedule, which is something I can relate to from
yeah.
from the other end of, the classroom, I guess, having been in academia for a while and spoiler alert, finally getting out.
I know,
Um,
right?
yeah, so exciting. So how does that work for your reselling business in terms of the time and energy you can put into reselling? Because and I may just be projecting because I know what it's like for me, like during the semester, it's like, okay, I do whatever I can when I can, which is not a lot. And then during the summer, I'm like, okay, this is like my full-time job now. But I'm curious to hear what it looks like for you, if you can relate to that, or if you kind of maintain the same level at all times. Just can you share more about that?
Yeah, I think it's close to what you're saying. At the same time, I it's going to be very different for me when I go back to school in September because I have never been a reseller when I've been in person school,
Mhm.
because I started right as COVID hit
Okay.
and I was home and I've been living at home with my parents. They wouldn't let me move back, sad life, but it is what it is. So they made me move home and I will be actually moving back out in September and I'm moving like my storage unit and everything down. So I think time wise, it's going to be a completely new battle that I have not seen before.
Mhm.
But with online in the last year, it has been very kind of give and take. It's just like if I need to spend more time because I have midterms this week, then reselling just has to go. And I think that for me, especially, and I'm sure a lot of people, even not in academia, like have this problem, it's more of trying to figure out priorities and like to me what's more important, is it more important to get an A in this class or is it more important that I meet my goals reselling? And it was a very hard balance, harder than I think I thought it was going to be, when I started in the fall for school. And it was also different because not only was I starting reselling with school for the first time, I was starting reselling with online school for the first
Mhm.
time. And if you have not been in school during this, then it is a completely different monster. In some ways, it's easier, in some ways, it's harder. I do think that it allowed me to do reselling and
Mhm.
startup reselling. Had COVID not happened, I probably wouldn't have done this and I wouldn't know you. So it's the weird little things.
Right.
Yeah, I started because I needed something to do for my own mental
Mhm.
health. Like I just couldn't sit at home and do nothing. I was like killing me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's definitely a give and take. Just if I have to take off a week, then I have to take off a week. And I think that's where kind of where my employees and stuff came in was even though I was starting to be on summer, I could still tell like there was times where I have to put my time in other things because I'm 21, I'm young. My friends always want to do stuff. And I'm like, I'm the kid that's like, I can't, I have work. And they're like, no, you don't. Like, you don't work. And I'm like, yes, I do. It just doesn't look like yours. So, yeah, that was annoying. And then, like, wanting to go on trips. And
Mhm.
I wanted to kind of explore that and see if I can make that work going into the fall as well.
Mhm.
Before I didn't want to like throw everything at myself at once in September. So, and I think that's when I kind of figured out, okay, I think I'm full time because
Mhm.
if I have employees, people working for me because I don't have enough time in my day, that to me is full time.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And I mean, you're a business owner, and that is, I think that's not very common still at 21 and when you're still in college. So I can see why your friends are saying, you don't work, but no, you do, and you have employees, which is more than I can say. So I and we're going to talk about that because I have questions about that.
yeah.
But so you mentioned you started reselling so around the time that COVID started, so a little over a year and a half ago. How did you get started? You said you were, kind of probably having cabin fever and all of that, but why specifically reselling? How did you find out about reselling, and what were the steps that you took just to get started?
Yeah, so it's kind of a funny, kind of interesting story. So I've always been like a little hustler businesswoman since I was like 3 years old. There's like the joke in my family that my godfather, I think when I turned four, he said, when I'm older, I'm either going to be a thief or a banker because of like how much I just loved money at 4 years old. Like I would get excited. I wanted the $10 bill for my birthday, not the
Mhm.
bear. Like I
Wow.
just wanted the money because I like money. Like I don't want the stuff. I like money. So I'm not as much like that anymore, but that was just like the running joke in my family. So when I was, I think when I was 13, I had found Mercari and I had seen that, oh, I can make money like selling my old stuff. And so there I am just like selling everything I have just to make money. Like I just wanted the money. And I would like, my mom would drive me to the post office like once or twice a week to go drop stuff off. And I was selling stuff for like $5. I was that person that like we source from now. Like I didn't know what I had. And I was just like wanting to get rid of it. And I was like, I can make $5 on this in less than a week. Heck yeah, I'm gonna do it, right? Yeah. Not really paying attention to the hours I'm putting in. Like it was just fun for me to know that I was making my own money. And I just really enjoyed it. So I did Mercari like on and off all the way out of like high school pretty much. And then I figured out about Poshmark, I want to say my senior year, because my mom actually found it. So my mom was shopping on Poshmark. She was like buying all this stuff. And I finally asked, I was like, where are you getting all this? Like, what is happening? And she told me, she's like, it's Poshmark. She's like, it's like your app, but better. And I was like, okay. So then I made a Poshmark. Yeah, right. On it now, I can totally agree. But so then I figured that out. So I made my own account. I didn't start selling on Poshmark until my first year of college, when this like big scandalous scam thing happened with my bank account. And I was basically living off of quarters for like 3 weeks. Yeah, so that was super fun. I had no access to my bank account. Like they took it away because someone scammed me and like they thought I was scamming the bank. And it was I was like, I'm a 21-year-old, like, or I was 19 at the time. I was like, I'm a 19-year-old, like little white girl that goes to a university. Like, can you not? And so I was like, I'm not that smart. Let's be real, guys. Okay. So, but yeah, so my friends, like, God bless their hearts, but I felt really bad. They were like literally scavenging up all the quarters they could find and like giving them to me to like be able to buy food. Like I was like, I'm not even like, I didn't grow up like poor and stuff. So I was like, I feel so bad like asking for money. So then I was like, you know what I can do? Like I can do the reselling again. Like that doesn't cost me any money to start. Like, even though some people say it does, it really doesn't. You can start with your own stuff. It costs you $0, just some time. And so I started selling again and I sold my old stuff. And then my mom is plus size. So I knew that plus size stuff really goes faster. I don't know how I knew that, to be honest, but I did. And so she brought me some of her stuff down and I started selling it again. And so that's where my Poshmark journey started. And so then that was probably 2018. So it was like 3 years ago. So on and off since then, I'd had spurts where like, I want to get rid of this. I need some quick cash right now. I'm going to sell this on Poshmark, but nothing like, oh my gosh, I'm going to make money, right? Like nothing reselling. I didn't know that existed. I was just selling because I was like people. And I always wondered, I was like, how do people have such good things in their closet all the time? Like I was like, I was like, what? Like, how do you find this stuff, guys? Like, wow, you must. And then people with like 150,000 followers, I was like, how do you have this much stuff to sell all the time? Dang, your closets must be big. Like, I was so clueless. Like I had no idea.
Right.
So then fast forward to 2020, I had like a really bad like long story short, like a really bad like mental break, like mental health issues before COVID happened, like conveniently right before COVID. So in January. And so I was actually going to have to move home anyway. And so my parents were going to make me like take the quarter off. And then COVID happened during my finals week of winter quarter. Weird things. And so then I got kicked out of my dorm anyway. So I had to move back home. And at that point, then everything that had happened in January kind of set back in. I was depressed. I didn't want to do anything. And that's just very abnormal for me because like I said, I'm a hustler. I've always been that person that just wants to go, do anything I can, take double the amount of units in school, like do everything.
Right.
And we had gotten an extra week off of school. So I had 3 weeks of no school, of no job, nothing, living back at home with my parents for the first time in a year, with my brother who love him, worst person to live with in the world, terrible, very difficult. So I was like dying inside. Like I was trying video games. Like I was playing Halo for a little bit. I played Guitar Hero and like nothing. I needed something. And then I was like, oh wait, I can sell some stuff on Poshmark, right? Like why not? And so I started selling. And then on the little, you know how Poshmark banners like pop up on the top of your share. So then I saw like Poshmark blog, see how this person like made $10,000 in the last month. And so I was like, okay. And then I went down the rabbit hole and I saw this thing about people asking for like donations on like Nextdoor to sell clothes because you can't give stuff to thrift stores. And I was like, I could do that. Like, sure, let's do it. Right. So then I do it. and I get an overwhelming amount of clothing, a lot of trash, but some great stuff. And from there, like that was just kind of the beginning of when I actually found Thrifter's Villa, Lori and Daniela's podcast first, because I'm a big podcast person. So I found their podcast and I was like, oh, this is a thing. Like people do this. And then I found Instagram. And then a while later, I've never been a YouTube person. So
Gotcha.
a while later is when I found YouTube and I just like got immersed. I've jumped full head first in and here I am. So yeah.
Long story short, right?
Yeah, right.
It's so funny that you say you're not a YouTube person, because I always feel like I'm like the last person in the universe to really understand what YouTube has evolved into over like the last 10 years, because I would use YouTube like until, I want to say 2 years ago, I would use YouTube just to look at music and like I need a clip for one of my classes. And when people would say, oh, this and this person is a YouTuber, I was like, huh? Like, what do you mean they're in YouTube? How is that a thing? Yeah. And then when I went down a rabbit hole, just like you said, which most of us do, I think, and I started off with kind of like the lifestyle content and then the thrifting and then the reselling. And then I was like, oh, okay, this sounds fun. Like you get paid to shop essentially. I mean, who doesn't love that, right? And I was kind of like, not arrogant, but I hadn't been to a thrift store in a really long time. I would thrift stuff for my kid for my consignment sales, but not really for myself. Like I would buy stuff on eBay, but I hadn't set foot into a Goodwill like ever. And I was like, I don't think there's any good stuff there. And then I went and I was like, oh, wait, there is good stuff here. I heard about this brand and I heard about that brand. And I've never heard about this brand, but it looks expensive. So it was such a revelation. And it's so funny to me that you say YouTube kind of came last, because I feel like for a lot of people who are like younger than me, YouTube is like the thing and everybody understands how YouTube works. And I was like, I don't. And you know,
I've always been the I'm the grandma like of my friend group. Like I don't have a TikTok, never have, never will. I only really use Instagram now for business. I don't like it. I don't have a Twitter. I like Snapchat is really the only one I use. And I know I'm like technically Gen Z, which is like the world of technology, and I hate technology. So like I've always been considered like the old soul, old grandma of my group, because I never understood YouTube. All my friends would go to VidCon and I'd be like, what is that? I don't even know what that is. And they're like, oh my gosh, David Dobrik, the YouTuber, da da da. Like I only know these names from them like ranting on about that. And now it's TikTok. And all I get all day long is my friends like iMessaging me TikToks to watch, because they know I don't go on and I won't watch them. So it's very funny. Yeah, I'm very much like, I still don't understand YouTube. I'm like, people make money just to go on a trip and vlog about it. Okay.
Right? Like, how?
For you.
How do I get cool. That life? Still figuring that out with reselling. But you know, you may be the grandma, but you're also, I'm guessing, probably the first business owner in your friend group, right?
Yeah.
Which is
they're all still kind of working like if some of them don't even work, but a lot of them will work. They're working like retail or like McDonald's, Taco Bell, the good stuff, you know.
The usual. I prefer reselling personally, but I kind of wish, you know, I had been you when I was in college or in grad school. I'm like, I wish I would have started this so much earlier, you know, the money. But you mentioned that you sell on Poshmark and eBay right now, right?
Yes.
I know you're sending stuff into consignment too. Are you still doing that, or is that not part of your business anymore?
Yes, it is. I mean, me and ThredUp have had a complicated relationship, as have many people. Yeah. Right.
Yes.
So I have not been able to get a label actually in 9 months. So yeah, but I just saw something about ThredUp cleanout partners. I don't know if you've heard about that. Yeah, that's like a newer thing, I guess, where you can get a gift card instead. And so, I mean,
and you take it to a retail store, right?
You still send it in, like it's still a label, but yeah, it's a gift card to one of they have like 10 partners. So it'd be a gift card to one of their partners. So, I mean, ThredUp can come at me for this. Like I made a separate account. They actually closed down I accidentally made 2 accounts with ThredUp once and they figured it out and they got mad at me, but they didn't do anything. They just like closed down the other one. But since I don't have to do like credit or rewards or anything, I was like, it's an e-gift card. So it's like, okay, I'll make a separate account. And so I have another account that I've been doing that on, because I even tried to get clean out labels, like partner labels with my account. And they're like, nah, this girl's out, which is very ironic because I feel like I've been a really big seller on there. And I'm like, if I've made you money, like, Why are you punishing me for that? I don't get it.
And I feel like that's what's happening. Everybody I talk to who has been sending in so many boxes is not able to get a label, and I still go on there and I get labels, and I think I may have sent 6 boxes total over the course of the last year. So
yeah, I've sent like 120. So I don't know.
ThreadUp is putting us all through it, but they're doing so. I mean, here we are talking about them, right? They're so smart.
I mean, yeah, they're still, like I said, they're still on my radar. I think, I mean, I've always liked a challenge, but I also think it's just so easy. And I'm a person that like, if I will double my money no matter how much I paid. If I paid $1, I'm cool with making 2. Like, it's not a big deal to me. I know that's a big controversial thing in the community too, but to me, like, I don't care. My thought is like, I work faster when I do multiple things at once. So like, if I'm photographing 10 items versus photographing like 1 at a time, I'm probably going to take the same amount of time with doing those 10 as those 1. So it's like, if I'm already outsourcing and I just happen to come across like a ThreadUp dress, then I'm going to buy it and stick it in a box. Like, to me, it wasn't that big. So I definitely have missed ThreadUp because it's made me like a big chunk of change for not doing a whole lot.
Right.
So now that I'm trying to clean out partners, I just sent in like 6 boxes last week. So we'll see. I've heard they get processed really fast. I've heard that it takes like a week. It says like 6 weeks on their website, but I've talked to a couple people and they've all said within a week, like their stuff is processed, and it's an upfront payout like they used to be.
Nice.
Yeah, so they just give you the gift card right away. Like, it's non-negotiable. You don't like mess with your prices and stuff. So yeah, and since I'm moving storage units, I need to get rid of stuff. So I was like, whatever. So that consignment's happening, and I use the real still here and there when I find stuff. I don't know like luxury brands that well, so I just, when I see something that I know, I'm like, okay, I'll send it in. But so I'm not like doing it diligently like Daniela is. But it makes me money sometimes. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But I put my energy on Poshmark and eBay.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting about ThreadUp. And that's the thing though, with ThreadUp, I feel like, if I can just double, maybe triple my money, especially if it's from the bins, I'm fine with that. I feel like, okay, I'm keeping it out of a landfill. Somebody will enjoy it. Now, the problem comes in when people return it and then, it gets sold again and get returned again. I'm like, okay, now I'm thinking about the carbon footprint and did I really do such a good thing here? So there's the other side to that. It's like, it's not that sustainable if we're going to be honest.
No,
it's also making me money. And then the real, I just started and I made 3 sales so far. So hopefully they're going to stick.
That's right. You just came out with that video, right? I need to watch that still.
Exciting.
Hopefully that went well for you. Yeah, those videos are fun to make. The real ones like this.
It did take them a while though. Oh yeah. So going back to ThreadUp, here's the fun thing. I didn't try the clean out partners yet, but I sent in a box and I filmed a video about this. And I had this whole plan of, okay, I'm going to send them jackets now. So they process it in 5 months. And I put the return assurance on there, but not the expedited processing. They freaking processed this box within 2 days, which has never happened. Not even when I had the expedited processing. And I'm like,
when you try to outsmart the system and it just goes wrong.
And now my jackets are just sitting there and nobody's even looking at them. And I'm probably going to get them back in the fall. And I'm just like,
and then you're going to resend them in and they're not going to process until next month. That's how that.
They're just, I mean, they took everything, which was also, I'm like, I'm sorry, ThreadUp, what's happening? You took 100%, like everything I send in. I'm like,
did you still have to pay? That's never happened to me. Did you still have to pay the $10.99?
See, it's not showing up right now. I don't know if it's going to start showing up once I make sales. I don't think I do if they don't send it.
I don't think so. I've heard myths about it. So I'm not sure that it's happened to me.
I feel like I shouldn't, but I feel like that about a lot of things with ThreadUp. So
yeah, most of ThreadUp.
Yeah. So when it comes to sourcing, and you already mentioned that, you don't mind just making $1 on an item that you paid $1 for. When it comes to sourcing, where do you source? How do you source? What kind of items do you look for? Do you have a specific customer in mind, or is your closet and store, is it just, are you a volume seller that sells anything and everything? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I think I'm a mix of both. I'm definitely really cheap. I just grew up that way. I grew up thrifting, garage sales. I didn't know what reselling was, but I just knew like, I'm not going to pay $50 for a t-shirt like Macklemore says in his song. Like, that's just how my mom taught me. just like if you can get it for cheaper, like I just remember her lesson was like some stuff we thrift and some stuff we don't. Cause like it got to the point where I was like thrifting like a bunch of things. I can't even think of what it was, but it was stuff that like goes bad really fast. My mom's like, yeah, that we buy new. And I'm like, okay. So like when I was like little. So
Yeah.
I've been thrifting my whole life. I've always been cheap. So the idea of like paying up for things still scares me a year later of into doing this because I just don't trust myself. Like I don't trust myself of knowing enough to where if I spend money on this, I'm going to make enough to feel good about it. So I am still a low cost of goods seller and it works for me. Volume selling works for me. So my main sourcing spots are Goodwill Dollar Days. So every Thursday out here where I live is Dollar Day, and then garage sales. So I would say more so garage sales now because I had a class on Thursday right at the height of Dollar Day. And so then I kind of got used to doing more garage sales and I love it. I love it so much. So yeah, so that's my main source of items where it comes from. And I don't like to spend more than like $2 or $3 for an item. I'm getting better. I just paid $15 for a pair of Uggs the other day. So it's like, okay, Chloe, you're doing good. But, there's moments where I catch myself and I get home and I'm like, Chloe, you should have bought it. Like, get over it. It was way worth that $20. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, and then I also have a honey hole that I shop at just because they have like a bunch of weird discount days and stuff. So I found a way to where like my cost of good is around $3 pretty much every time I go, which is again more than like I used to do, which sounds so silly because I'm like it's $3. But yeah, I've just got like cheap brain. Like it's just constantly, I see it's something with a $20 price tag and I'm like, nope, I don't care if you're Louis Vuitton. Like, nope, sorry. I'm so bad like when it comes to that.
Honestly, I can relate though when I hear that people pay like $50 for a purse and I'm like, I like you, I don't trust myself because I don't know enough about these high-end items, and then I need to authenticate it, and then I need to make sure it's pristine, and I'm like, it just makes me nervous. So a while ago I went to this new thrift store. Well, it's not new, it's new to me. And they had an MCM purse, which is really pretty too. And I was like, and it's a German brand and I really want to pick it up. And it was priced, I think at 50, but they had 25% off of everything. And I was just like, would this be a smart decision? What do I do here? And I didn't pick it up just because I was like, you know what, that's a lot of money. And it probably would have made me some money also because I found Rothy's in the same thrift store and that made me a chunk of change. So that would have paid for the purse.
Yeah.
But still, I was like, you know what? I can't do it. So I'll sell like Fashion Nova and Torrid all day long because I know what I'm doing and nobody fakes it. But
exactly.
And then with the Real too, I felt like, okay, maybe I'll just send this in to see how it does and get like a third of what I could be making on my own.
Yeah, that's what I did at first, for sure. I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna send it in and see. Like I sent some Uggs in. I sent like some of the North Face stuff, like stuff that I know I could sell, but I was like, I want to dip my toes in and I'm still making money and it's easier. But yeah, I'm exactly the same way. I would not have picked up that $50 purse because if you think about it too, I mean, like I know some people will say this on their YouTube, like when they shop at the bins, like they're making the same amount of money on a American Eagle jeans that they're making on a retail arbitrage pair of like high-end jeans because they paid $50 for them and they made $50, right? So the sale was 100, but they only came out with 50. Whereas if I sell like 2 pairs of American Eagle jeans, I made $50 too, and I got those for $1, right? And I have more confidence in it. So I think that's where more my head is at. Is like if I feel okay with it, then I'm going to do it. And I know I can sell it.
Right.
I think thing too, because I've always noticed that no matter how much high-end stuff I pick up, it just doesn't sell. Like I can't, it does not move. I don't know what it is. So I think I accidentally have like a certain clientele I shop for, not on purpose. It was never intended to have a curated closet. I just buy what I like. And because of that, I think my audience is just younger, not as much money. I mean, my audience is me, like pretty much. Like I'm not going to spend money on a nice purse. I could care less about a brand. Like I don't. The only reason I know brands now are because of reselling. I didn't before.
Right. I want to go back to the garage sales or yard sales. So, and I know you find a ton of clothing at those, which I think is amazing. Are you ever tempted to pick up hard goods or branch out beyond, clothing and shoes and accessories?
Yeah, so I have in the past, and it's never worked out for me. So I don't know if I'm like doing it wrong or what? I have like started watching some like hard good YouTube sellers, like Poetry of Nice, if you've heard of her. She picks up a bunch of hard goods from garage sales and she does that nonstop. But I can't sell anything. I have like quite a bit of hard goods in my storage unit just sitting there because like also I hate listing it. So a lot of it is like in my e-death pile, like it's pictured, it's everything, it's taking up storage space, and I'm just like scared of it. I don't know why, but I think it's more just like the shipping of it. And I don't know as much info about it. So I have to like look up more stuff and it doesn't come as easy to me. And I think because I have the opportunity to find so much clothes and that kind of thing, I'm just kind of like, yeah, like I don't need to do it. So I'm like, okay, but I have tried it and I've given it a shot. And I think it's just not for me. It doesn't bring me happiness. It doesn't bring me joy. If I see something that I know is like worth money, then yeah, I'll pick it up. Like there was, what was it? Oh, a bunch of video games at this one garage sale. They wanted like $3 each for, and I knew I could make at least like $20 on each one. And that's really easy to list. So I did pick like a bunch of those up, even though it doesn't really bring me joy, but for the most part, can't bring myself to keep doing it.
Yeah. I think that's a really important point, though. It needs to bring you some sort of joy. It can't just be about the money, because I do watch more hard goods channels now. And it's, first of all, I'm overwhelmed because there's just so much, it's just so much. And I think maybe if you can find something that you enjoy, like that one niche, and focus on that, sure. But that's the thing. I have hard goods sitting around here too. Not a lot, but it takes me forever to get them listed because I don't enjoy it, even if it brings me, a good amount of money. And then I see certain hard goods sellers flip items within a day for like $200, and I'm like, I wish that could be me, but I know it's not, aside from the fact that I don't have the space. But I think it's really, really important to not just be focused on, is this going to make me the highest profit possible, versus is it going to bring me joy? And, going back to selling American Eagle all day long, if that brings you joy, and if you know it's reliable and it sells and it pays the bills, go for it. I mean, I think that's really important. And I know that on your channel, you talk a lot about brands that you pick up that other resellers don't pick up, but they work for you and you sell them because like you said, your customer is you, and you know what your customer likes. So I think that's really important to hone in on what you do best, and that doesn't have to work for everybody else, right?
Oh yeah. I think that's like the number one rule of any business, really, is like, until you're Jeff Bezos, where you don't do anything for your own company, I think you have to find a way to enjoy it, or you quit, right? Like they always say like the first year is what tells you for reselling, because most people don't make it past that, because they spread themselves too thin. They try to do things that they don't like, and then they're like, why am I doing this? I hate it. And it's like, yeah, you did that to yourself. Like you need to like it to do it. And that's with any business, because being a business owner is stinking hard. It's not all pretty and rainbows that you see on YouTube all the time. Like a lot of the stuff that you have to do, like people don't realize, and it's like just terrible. And it makes me want to quit all the time. But I'm like, no, you like this part, you like doing this. And I think that's part of it. Is like when I pick up those hard goods, I'm like, why am I doing this? Like there's no purpose. I don't need to do this. Like I have plenty of if I didn't have the resources, I think that I did, then maybe like you'd have to branch out to that, right? Like if I couldn't find what I find. But it's like, what's the purpose of spreading myself that thin when I have my niche, right? Like I do my clothing. I don't need to do anything else. Yeah. And I enjoy it. It brings me joy and it keeps my business going. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And in my most recent interview with Ashley, we talked about that, all the little tasks that go into it that are so not glamorous. Like I was cleaning shoes on my bathroom floor today, and I was just sitting there like, this sucks. I'm like covered in the remnants of a magic eraser, it's just like the little pieces with the dirt on it. And I'm like, I feel disgusting. And this is all part of it. But this pair of shoes is going to make me $30 within a week. I know it, So it's just like, fine, I'll just do it. But I've had these moments recently at the bins where I'm like, ugh, I kind of don't want to dig through all this stuff. But then once I list it, I get a little bit more excited for it. It's as long as you find good stuff, right? If you have a really bad day, it's like, I just wasted a day of my life.
One bad day at the bins is really discouraging.
Yes. So going back to what you mentioned earlier, the fact that you have employees, plural. Tell us about that. How did that? Okay, so also you have a warehouse. or a
I have
storage
a
unit, not a
storage
warehouse,
unit.
a
Yeah.
storage unit. Okay, so
I
you have
wish.
a storage unit, you have employees, you're like doing all the things. So tell us a little bit about that. What made you get this? I mean, obviously you need space, but just kind of like the steps in your thought process behind getting a storage unit and then hiring employees, and how did you go about all that?
Yeah, so the storage unit started very small, came very quickly after I started, that probably less than a month. It's when I was picking up donations and stuff, and it was taking over the garage, and my dad was like, "No, you can't do this." He was like, "Are you making money off of this?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Then you need to invest it because you're not taking over my house." And I was like, "All right, that's fair." So I got like a $50 a month storage unit as I started. And it was just literally like, I just threw my death pile in there. Like my inventory was still in my room, but it was the death pile that was overwhelming because of all the donations that I was getting. And so I would just throw that in there. And then when I was ready for a box or something, I would just go get it and bring it back home. And then that evolved to, well, now I have all this inventory that's not fitting in my room anymore. Like I still need to sleep in here. So like, I don't want to be sleeping on tubs of clothing. And so me and my dad looked into it, and I got a little bit of a bigger one at the same place. And it wasn't one of the door rolly open ones yet. It was just like one of the smaller ones. I think it was I want to say it was like a 10 by 5. And that one was around 100 a month. This probably sounds expensive to other people that have storage units, but Southern California, that's what you get. And that was like at a cheaper, not so good part of town. And I'll get to that. So that one was like 20 minutes away, and it was like really down south in a not so nice area. And so I could only go there certain hours. Like my parents were like, "No, it's unsafe. Like you're not, once it's dark, you're home. Like it's not happening." But I needed to start working there because then we were getting in the space fight at my house of me trying to do shipping because our printer is in the loft. But that is where I bring back to my brother, where my brother's desk is. And he is very particular about his things. And he was not happy with me sitting at his desk in the morning when he was asleep to print stuff out. Like he just was not okay with it. And it just caused more fights than needed. And so at that point, my parents were like, "Well, do you think you could maybe like do your shipping in your room, maybe do it in your unit? Like, what can we do here to solve this problem?" So then I started doing shipping at my storage unit, but I could only go at certain times. And so it was like I had to be very scheduled and planned out, and it was like causing me a lot of stress. And it's also really hot in the summer in Southern California. It gets hot at around 8 a.m. It's cold until around 8 a.m. and then it's like 100 degrees and you can't breathe. So, and then if you're like in a confined space, like a storage unit, it's just holding the heat. And so I would have to go at 6 a.m., which I still do that now, but that's more by choice. But back then I was like, I hate this, right? And then I kept growing, and my stuff was getting too big. And so I had to upgrade a unit. And at the place that I was at in the not so good part of town, where I tried to upgrade, they wanted to like kind of stick me in this like really shady corner. It was like a hallway, and then it was like a corner. And there was like no windows, no like light. And my dad was like, "Yeah, this is like a recipe for disaster. Like you're never coming here by yourself if we're doing this." So I had to deal with it and pay a little more to kind of come up where I'm at in my part of town. And I'm really happy I did it. This was probably back in September of 2020. So I've been there a hot minute now, and I really enjoy it because it's 3 minutes away, and it's a really nice part of town. And it's a 10 by 20. So it is one of like the rolly up now. And I just feel comfortable because I have the space to move around. I have the space to work there. I do all my shipping there. I do everything there. And I also have a space for my interns. If I need them to do something, they can be there by themselves. It's safer. It's like, I don't feel uncomfortable leaving them there. And like, I know the manager there. She's super sweet. She gives me clothes when she doesn't need them anymore to sell. So that it's a little pricier. I want to say it's $295 a month, I think, which is a lot. It's like probably $100 more than the place that I was at. But I mean, you get what you pay for, right? So it's safer. And I've never felt uncomfortable at this one. I felt uncomfortable every time I went to that other one. Like I did not feel safe. And so that's how the storage unit came about. And now I can't live without one. Like no matter where I move to, I'll have a storage unit. Like it's also something about like not living with your inventory, which I know a lot of people talk about. And I think for me, like for me, it was like, if I'm living with my inventory, like I'm already a workaholic, and it's just, I physically cannot make that separation. And I just kill myself with my work. Like I can't, even having a storage unit, it's still, I'm like that. But now it's like, well, it's closed, so I can't go. Like it closes at 6:45 p.m. So after that, sorry, you can't touch your inventory. Like nothing you can do about it, Chloe, unless you want to be locked in there all night. Like, so, so that's kind of a nice thing about that. Okay, and then fast forward to my interns. So, well, I have a VA. I've had a VA for a while. I've had a VA, just like any VA, since September, and then I used Fiverr for that. She was great. It worked out well. I think it was just I needed more than her skill level, but again, you get what you pay for.
Right.
And at the time, I couldn't really afford something better, but it was better than nothing. And I had her starting on just cross listing using Vendu. So I would list the Poshmark and I would fill out the title and the description. And then she would use that information to fill out all the stuff on eBay, basically. So pretty simple job. So she could do it really well. When I wanted to branch out to having her do the title and description, I think her skill level just wasn't quite there. And she was honest. She told me, like, I think you should find someone else. Like, I don't think I can do this. I'm not comfortable doing this. And I was like, that's fair. So that's when I switched over to Upwork, which 10 out of 10 recommend. Love it way better. So much easier. And I had my first VA that I had with Upwork was amazing until the end. She just kind of fell off the face of the earth. Like she just stopped. She kind of like was logging hours that she wasn't doing anything. It was really weird because I had her for like 4 months. She was amazing. Never had to give her any feedback really. Like she did really good for what I needed. And then, she just she just stopped responding to my messages. And I was like, okay, like I gave her multiple chances to like talk to me, nothing. So I had to let her go. Haven't heard from her since, like said nothing to me. So, but luckily on Upwork, you can use your old postings. You don't have to like redo anything. And then I found another one and she's a little more expensive, but again, you get what you pay for. So she is a lot better, just more knowledgeable and stuff and quicker. So I couldn't live without a lister. I've had a lister since September, right? And like, I can't, nope. Couldn't be a reseller without that. Like it's worth the money. Trust me. Especially if you do other stuff. Like if you're not just a reseller, totally worth the money. And you can find cheaper ones, like mine's from the Philippines, so their rates are cheaper. So now my in-person interns, sorry, lot.
I'm like, you're for it.
So my in-person interns. So like I said, with the end of school, as I was saying earlier, it just got to be too much. And I think my biggest like bottleneck was shipping. Like I just couldn't keep up with it, just physically and mentally, which I mean, it's a good problem to have, right? Like you have so many sales that you have a lot of shipping to do, but after a while you get burnt out. Like I used to love packaging. I used to love doing the cute packaging, right? When you have 40 orders on a Monday, you don't want to do that, like you just, and it's 100 degrees outside and you got there at 6 a.m. and now it's 8 a.m. You're not done. You've been there 2 hours, like, and you want to die, like literally. And so it was just becoming too much for me. And I was like, I need to do something. And I was like, I can't afford like a real official employee. So I was like, how can I get around kind of the laws, right? Without having, to deal with like any legal matters, because I'm in California, like it's pretty strict here. So kind of hard to get around that kind of stuff. But in certain professions in California, you can have non-paid interns. Not very many professions, but in certain ones you can. Like the medical field, you can have unpaid interns, and in retail, you can. So I classify as a retail, technically. Based on what we do, we classify as retail in that term. So I am able to have an unpaid intern and not get in trouble for it. And I don't have to log it or anything. It's not like a legal thing. So my mom had a friend who had a daughter who was doing Depop, and that's kind of where it started. And I made a joke as my mom was like, oh, you should like take her to lunch and like teach her how to do it, help her out. And I was like, if she works for me, I'll totally do that. Like as a joke. And then my mom was like, she'd probably be interested in that. And fast forward like a month later, and now she works for me. So it's kind of like a give and take. Like I give them, I kind of help them list, and like I do some of their listing for them. And I've made like a bunch of tutorials for them and stuff, which to me seems like effortless, right? But if you think back to when you started, was not effortless, right? Like you didn't know, like I wish I had had someone that did that for me, right? Like that had told me, use an all white background, edit your photo, make your cover photo look good. Don't just put white dress in your title. Don't just put size small in your description. Don't sell someone as if they're like buying a car, like beautiful white dress. It would go great with da 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 da, da. Like, right. Like you don't need to do any of that. Like less is more. So like I wish I had someone to tell me all those little mistakes, right? Like that we learned over the year on our own from YouTube and stuff. But we could have made so much more money if we had someone telling us as we start, do this, 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 and this, right? Like you don't have to go look for the information. I'm going to give it to you. Right. And so I think like in talking to my parents, because I thought it was like, I feel bad like having an unpaid intern. Like I was like, I don't feel right doing that. Like I feel like it's like a slave. Like I don't like, you know, and I don't want that. And my parents were like, well, think like, would you have wanted that experience and that mentor and that person? Like, and they related it to school. They're like, with your professors, like you do free TA work for them. Like, how is that any different? Because you're getting information from them, right? Like, actually, you're paying them for the free TA work, right? Like, you're paying for school, scam, but whatever. And you're doing work for the professors. So if you're a TA, and I have been. And so I was like, yeah, I guess that's fair. Like, they're teaching me stuff. So morally, I was okay with it. And then I decided, though my mom's friend, she's not available very much. And so I was like, I need someone that can be here more. So I posted on the Nextdoor app, just like, hey, I was very upfront. I was like, I'm young, I'm 21. I'm learning about fashion. I'd love to teach you. Like, if you're a high school kid, you have a kid that you think may be interested. I was like, I'm a real person. I promise. I'm not like a scam online. I was like, I can't pay very much. If anything, I was very upfront about that. Like, it was more like, I'll pay you an experience if you're interested. We can see if it works. If you hate it, that's okay. So I basically just made a post like that, very real. And I got like two moms and then one daughter that reached out. The two moms were like, I think my daughter would be interested in this. And I interviewed those two daughters, and I think they were more in it for the money. And I was like, if you're in it for the money, probably not for you, because I don't have very much of that. Like, right. And I was like, I'd rather have someone that wants to be here for the experience, because I feel like that's what I can offer. And I want you to get as much out of it as I am. Like, I didn't want it to feel like a scam, like I'm using you or something like that. Right. And so I do encourage y'all, if you ever try to get an intern or something, I would encourage you to go that way about it. Just because also like you're trusting these people to do stuff for you too. And if you don't want to put your trust in somebody that maybe isn't in it for the right reasons. Because it's just going to create conflict, and it's just, you're starting on bad terms. And so I then interned the daughter that reached out to me. She reached out to me herself, not her mom. And I was like, okay, that can mean a good thing. Right. And I love her, obsessed with her. She's going to be in one of my upcoming YouTube videos, actually, if I ever get around to editing it. You know, what are you gonna do? But I'm a mess. It's fun. But yeah, so she loves it. I actually don't pay her at all. I said I could. I was like, there are times where I like, if I'm not home and like you're doing just work for me, I'm not like teaching you, like I can pay if you want me to. And she was like, no, like it's totally fine. Like, I want to help you. Like, I want to learn this for myself. And I was like, all right, like by all means. And she absolutely loves it. So she does photography for me. She does a lot of the processing, kind of the stuff that everybody hates doing. And funny enough, she likes it. Nice. She's like me. Yeah, she's like weird. Like, she likes it. I like it. I like photographing, and I like packaging things into little like clear poly bags. I don't know why. I do. But she enjoys it too. She's like, it's soothing, and it's adorable. She's the most adorable person ever. But she's a high school student. She's going to be a senior, and she wanted to start like doing her own Poshmark closet. And she works at Hollister right now. So she's got some of like the fashion trend mind on. And so I just started taking her thrifting and garage sales, and I'm kind of teaching her the lay of the land. And in the process, she's doing all this other stuff for me. Like, I haven't photographed an item in over a month. She's done everything for me. And she is amazing. Like, she photographs so quickly. Like, she does it probably, I mean, I've never met somebody that can like photograph as quickly as some people that I've met. Like, some people can really get that stuff done. And like, if you're good at it, like you can do it. I'm a photographer, so I'm pretty quick at it. That was my job before reselling, fun fact, but unrelated. But so she goes almost as fast as I do. And that was like really impressive to me. So love that. So I'm like, okay, you can do all the photography. Like, I'll do the other stuff. Like, you know, like you get your stuff done. I'm cool with that. And then she also does all the Like I use Tote Scan inventory app, and so you have to like input everything.
Yeah.
And I hate that with a passion. Like that is one of my least favorite things. It's one of the easiest, but it's just so tedious and I'm so impatient and I get bored really easily. So she likes doing it when we're listening to a murder podcast. So I'm like, all right. So we go to my storage unit. I do my shipping. She does the processing. We listen to a murder podcast and it's a great morning. So that's how we spend like 4 of our mornings in weeks. It's going really well. It's been probably a month now. And then with my other intern, she does modeling and shipping for me. So I'm kind of working on a project to come out into the fall. I don't want to say too much yet, but basically, I am combining my photography skills because I miss doing photography with reselling. And so I'm kind of working on a little collab thing and she's doing the modeling for me, which she loves doing. And then in return, she's going to do the shipping for me. I taught her how to do shipping. So when I go on vacation, she does shipping for me like 2 days a week if I'm gone for a week. And that way I don't have to shut my closet down. So I've done it twice now and I'm going on vacation again next week. And so she's going to do shipping for me again. And that's like probably the best part about having an intern. One of the best is not having to shut down because I was probably most worried about that because I knew like post-COVID summer, I'm going to be doing a lot. I'm going on a lot of vacations. I'm doing all that kind of stuff. But I was like, I've built this business up so much. I don't want to take 5 steps back, right? Just because I want to live my life and have a good summer. Right. And so I was like, how can I make that balance? How can I still keep my business afloat without giving up my life basically for it? And that it took me a year to figure that out. So if you're not there yet, don't get mad because it took me a year to be like, how can I stay afloat without having to give up my entire life for this thing? So yeah, that's kind of how that came about and how it's doing. And I love it. Totally recommend.
It sounds amazing, honestly. I keep saying I wish I had like a teenager family member, nearby where it's like they're doing you a favor and you don't really have to pay them, but they just like take some pictures for you or something like that, or pack up your orders, like the shipping.
Pay them in food.
You. I don't have that much going out like ever, but on weekends, I've had weekends where I had to pack up like 20 orders and that felt like a ton for me. And I was like, if I were to do this full time, I would hate this so much right now. I mean, I'm excited because I'm making money, but I just hate this so much, and I think that's really when you start scaling your business and when it grows, you at some point you just can't do it all by yourself anymore. You just need help in some form. I mean, how much inventory do you have? Like how many listings or death pile plus listings? Where are you at? What's your number, Chloe?
So if you'd asked me 5 days ago, it would have been at 1,650 active listings. But for the last probably, I want to say 6 months, I have been trying so hard to get down to 1,200 because like you said, 1,650 is just way too much for one person. I couldn't, I was like, that's where the interns came in. So I was like, I can't do this by myself. And I'm making mistakes, right? Like more mistakes than I would like to admit on YouTube with some orders, just because, like I said, it was just too much for me. I was trying to go too fast, trying to keep up and I couldn't. So once I figured out about ThreadUp cleanout partners, I am now down to 1,345, I think, as of today. So, but that's not counting my death piles. So in my electronic death pile, which is things that I have pictures of that have not been listed yet, probably about 350 items in there. Yeah, maybe less, but around there. And then in my regular, in my storage unit death pile, I've got about 4.5 tubs. So probably around the same, probably like 300, 400 items. So let's say I'm not down in inventory. I'm doing okay in the inventory department.
Yeah. You're probably at like 2,000, all things considered.
Yeah.
That is a scary number. I always dance around the 1K on Poshmark, and I'm always like, I don't want to go past it. I went past it at some point, and I was like, nope, we're gonna.
Once you get past it, like it's impossible to get it back down. Because I was like, I can't.
I think that's when I did my whole, like, I'm cleaning up my Poshmark closet and I'm sending all this trash to ThreadUp, and some of it made me some money, or recuperated my cost. But yeah, that felt so good. And then I went thrifting and I'm like, well, I'm back at 1,000. So
right. Like it takes like one thrift trip. That's the problem. It's like I'm cleaning out all the stale inventory, but I have 350 items in my electronic death pile, and like those aren't going anywhere. Like they'll be listed.
If it's not listed.
Yeah, exactly.
So you already mentioned your family here and there, and it sounds like especially your parents are really supportive, but what does that support system look like outside of people that, you hire to help you and outside of having tools that help you with your business? But in terms of your support system with your family and friends and such, what does that look like?
Yeah, I think definitely I probably have a stronger support system than a lot of people that I hear about, and I'm completely so lucky for that. I think it's more like I had to find, when it comes to my family, I had to find the balance. Because even now they're like, Chloe, get your trash out of my living room. And I'm like, yeah, but there's nowhere for it to go. So yeah, that's where it's going right now. Because I want to sleep on my bed, not on clothes. And so I think that it's definitely with my family, it's been a little bit of a battle. I think at first they were kind of like, why are you spending this money? Why are you bringing this trash in our house? And then I think once they started seeing me make money on it, like more money than a 21-year-old would normally bring in for income, I think they were kind of like, oh, okay, like you do your thing, girl. Like all right, just try not to ruin my house. And I'm like, that's fair. So I definitely have a very supportive family. I also have an uncle who's a business owner. And so he's helped me with a lot of the business aspects of things when I have questions. As far as friends and stuff, I think I don't have as much support there as I would like, because sometimes I do feel like when I say stuff, okay, I'll split it into two. So sometimes like they'll ask me to go out and I'll be like, I really can't, like, I know I need to stay home and list today. Right. And like, I'll just say I have work, and then they kind of make fun of me and they're like, that's not work. And I'm like, really? Because how much money are you making? Because like, that's what I want. That's not what I say, because I'm a nice person, I swear, but that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, really? But so sometimes like they kind of give me trash and stuff for not wanting to go out and stuff, but that is what it is. It's my age. And like I said, I found a way to be able to do both. And then on the other hand, I am a member of Gen Z, unfortunately sometimes, but there was that big TikTok thing going around where it's like resellers are stealing from the poor. And like, that was half of my friends. So I got a lot of stuff from a lot of my friends, like calling me, texting me, like just kind of telling me like I'm a horrible person, like people that I like love and trust. And yeah, like some of them I'm still friends with. Like I think it was just a disagreement. Like it's one of those, you hear everything you see online, and then like I had every argument in the books to argue against them. If y'all want to hear those arguments, I did an episode on it in my podcast, like facts upon facts. Like a couple of them, like once I was like spewing these facts at them, like they were like, I stand down, like that's fair. And I'm like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, and I still get people make comments like, I do get embarrassed to say to people that are my age that I'm a reseller, because most commonly the thing I get is they go, oh, so you upcharge people even though you got it for cheap. Like that's the first thing that comes out of everyone's mouth. And I'm just kind of like, no, it's not like, and then I have to explain it in a way. Some people get it, some don't. I explain it in a way. I'm like, okay, but remember that hour that it took me to find that item, source that item, take pictures of that item, store that item, share that item. That's an hour that you didn't do. You searched for it online, you found it, and you paid for it. So you pay McDonald's more money than they spend on the food because they have to pay their workers, right? Like you pay when you go to a hotel, you pay a cleaning fee. Like you pay for these things. It's a service. You're paying for the service. I mean, you're buying something from Poshmark or eBay or ThredUp or whatever it is, you're paying for a service. Yeah. Right. And so that's kind of how, so if y'all ever have problems with friends that do this, explain it that way. Explain that it's a service. You're paying for your tattoo artist. They're charging you a lot more than the ink costs. Trust me. Like you're paying for everything in life. Like you pay for it. It's a service. You're paying for someone's time. Yeah. And so once I kind of explain that, most people are like, okay, that's fair. Like, because they just they read what they see and then they just kind of go on there. So that has definitely caused some just like emotional turmoil in my life with some friends. I've lost some friends over it, which is like the silliest, stupidest thing in the world. Right. But if they're not going to support me in that, like they're not really my friends. So they're not willing to give me the time of day to explain why I'm doing this. It's like, well, then I don't really want you as a friend anyway. So so when it comes to friends, not as much support as I would love, but family definitely makes up for it. So
nice. I feel like though, if you really break it down and look at all the conveniences we enjoy in our life at this point, I mean, if I'm ordering something through, I don't know, DoorDash, I'm paying for the person to bring it to me. So I don't have to get in my car and get it. And that's what you pay for. And that's why you pay more. If you order through Instacart, it costs more than going to the store. And it's just like, it's literally like that in every aspect of our life. If I'm buying a $10 shirt that's on sale for $5, they're still making money off of that because they paid for things, you know, especially if it's fast fashion. And I think there's that tunnel vision, like, oh, we're just going to focus on, you know, hating on the resellers right now. And and we could go down a rabbit hole talking about the misconception about the purpose of thrift stores, you know, like
that was a whole nother battle on its own.
And it's so interesting to me because I feel like, especially, and I don't want to, you know, sound patronizing or anything like that, but I feel like especially Gen Z, a lot of people like going thrifting and, you know, and like shopping on Depop and Poshmark and ThredUp. And it's so interesting to me because I'm like, who do you think you're buying this from? Chances are it's a reseller, you know?
That's the first question I ask people is if like they're trying to give me stuff and I'm like, have you ever shopped on eBay or Poshmark?
Yeah.
Who do you think did that?
Yeah.
Like
exactly. And I mean, sure, some people, they just want to get rid of stuff and sell it for $5, you know, like you used to do. And I still do that with some of my items too, that just sit in my own closet. I'm like, here, have it. But that's a whole different, I feel like that's a whole different video that we
whole nother conversation
should make at some point. And people have made them before, but I just, I also don't like to rehash the drama. I don't know if it has died down on TikTok because I'm not on TikTok.
I've heard about it. I'm not on TikTok, so I don't really know, but from what I know, yes, it's not as bad as it used to be, but there's still, I mean, if you're a reseller on TikTok, I feel like you still kind of get ish from what I've heard. But.
Yeah. And I think it's also just a way of phrasing it, maybe. Like, I don't really walk into a room like, I'm a reseller, you know, it's like, I own my
call myself a
e-commerce
sustainable
business
seller.
You know.
I call myself a sustainable seller when I'm like talking to certain people because I'm like, it's still true, and it doesn't have the negative connotation that the word reseller does. Right?
Yeah. I mean, yes, we are trash pandas, but also it's not glamorous. Okay, if you want the shirt for $3, then go to the thrift store yourself, right?
You'll find it yourself.
Clean it and steam it and ship it to you in a nice packaging, you know, then you're gonna pay me $15. That's just how that works. So anyway. Tangents. You got me started.
Sorry.
So I think you already touched on it a little bit, but just to kind of summarize, what are some goals that you had with your reselling business, or in retrospect that you feel like you have achieved milestones that you're really proud of? And then also, what are some goals for the future, especially with regard to, you know, you graduating college? Do you see reselling as part of your life after that? Which may be an unfair question because you may not know what exactly you want to do, and that's totally fine. But like, do you think it's going to be a part of your life? Do you think you're going to be a full-time reseller? Do you think you're going to make that your career? You know, that sort of questioning. And I only ask because, of course, on YouTube, there are resellers who have graduated college and go straight to full-time reselling, and that's their job. And then there are others who, you know, work but also do reselling. So I'm just curious what you think about that.
Yeah. So as far as past goals, I think two of the biggest ones they're not as much like tangible kind of goals, they're more intangible. One of them is the mindset of setting goals, ironically, that I've learned in the last year, that I make it a point to not set sales goals. I make it a point to set listing goals because I don't remember where I learned this, but I learned this from a reseller. And then also one of my professors taught me this in a different light, in a business class I took. If you set a sales goal, you don't have 100% control over that. So if you don't reach it and you get down on yourself, it's not helping you in any way, right? Like it's better to set the bar really low. That's what I do. I call it lowering the bar. This was one of my professors that taught me this, is like, if you set the bar here, you can't get any lower than that. So all you can do is be happy with yourself, right? Like it's all about the mindset. So there's no need to set the bar way up here, right? Like there's no purpose for that. So I think that's the biggest thing, is being really proud of myself for not being like, okay, I need to make 100 sales this month, because if I don't make 100 sales this month, all I'm going to do is be upset, right? Like, this is not going to help me. It's not going to help my sales. It's not going to help my business. But if I say I'm going to list 300 items this month, I have 100%, well, unless like COVID happens, but other than that, I have like 100% effort control, right? Like it's a direct link to the amount of effort I am able to put in. Whereas sales, there is 8 million other factors along with effort that I don't have control over. So that's the first thing, is the mindset, having a positive outlook, having achievable goals that you have control over. I've definitely conquered that in the last year. And it's probably been the biggest struggle, if not like the biggest struggle of my life, to have to do that. Because that's a whole mindset thing, not just in reselling and everything. And I've been working on that because I always used to be a big control freak, big like, has to be my way or the highway, has to be this, I have to do it like this. And if I don't get it, no, that's not okay. Like, and I've gotten way more like, nope, it's okay. We're going to figure it out. It's going to be an achievable goal. If we don't get up here, it's not the end of the world. Like, it's good. So that's the first one. And then the second one is I reached the summer, which was scaling my business balanced wise. So I think that I grew faster than I can handle in the last year. And I paid the price for that. I learned the hard way. I wasn't planning to grow that much. Like I didn't have the goals to grow like that. I think I just wasn't capping myself when I should have. And I learned the hard way that one person cannot do this much when you like, it's just not physically possible. There are not enough hours in the day, especially if you're a student and you want to have a life and you want a family and you want friends and you just can't do that. And then I think I went the opposite way and I was like, okay, so I just need to stop, like just not do it. And then it was like, well, that's not working because now I'm not making any money, right? Like, so it was kind of like finding, which is all life, finding that balance of not just work-life balance, but more like growth balance.
Yeah.
Of growing in a straight, like attainable line rather than like, or like, right, like on a graph. And I think I finally found that sweet spot where I know if there's a month where it's like, okay, I know that this month I have the time, I have the plausible effort in being able to grow to this point. And maybe next month I'm like, okay, I'm probably going to go down a couple steps, but I know that I can make that up in September, October, whatever it is. Right. So I think it goes back into the kind of expectation bar. It's just knowing myself, knowing reality, and being okay with it and not getting down about it and just kind of moving forward and accepting what it is. So those are my, what I have. Yeah. And then as far as the future, I'm still kind of, I don't know. I've gotten very much, I used to be very much like plan my whole life. And then I had like a mental breakdown over it. And like, since then it's just kind of been like, I don't know. And I'm okay with it. It doesn't freak me out as much as it used to. I think as of right now, I do plan to keep this business in some capacity, in some way. I don't know what it'll look like, whether it'll be my only income, whether it will be kind of something where I just kind of sit back and I have employees doing it and I do my own thing, whether I'm going to move into a brick or mortar store, like a physical store place or a warehouse. All these things have been floating through my head for graduation. I think that's why I wanted to find this balance so badly this summer, because I was like, I want to have this set for me in case I want to do it later, because I was like, starting a business from the ground up when you are relying solely on that income is like impossible because you have to make ends meet. Yeah. But the first year of business, most people break even, right? Like you learn that from real businesses. Like they don't start making real money until year 2 or 3 or 4 even. And so if you don't have the capital up front, like you're not going to make it. And so, or you just get stuck in this rut where you're like only making a certain amount of sales a month and you can't increase it. And you're like trying so hard and it's just, you're losing all this effort. And so I think that was a big reason I wanted to get to that point. And then this next year when I'm in school, I'm just going to stay there. I'm not going to grow, but I have this foundation here that if I wanted to go somewhere when I graduate and I want to do this full time, I'm ready. It's there. It was the same thing with YouTube. That's why I started my YouTube channel now. I have no desire to try to get 1,000 subscribers in the next year. Literally none. That's why I'm so inconsistent. Sorry, guys, but that's why I like don't.
But still subscribe.
Yeah, but please, I love you forever. But like I put out videos when I think about it, but it's like literally the bottom of my priority list. Yeah. And I have the foundation. It's there. I know how to do it when I'm ready for it. And I think right now I'm just not ready for it, but I might be one day. So I just like having my options open. As of right now, I think my tentative plan for graduation is I really want to travel. So I think I'm going to be a flight attendant. I'm going to apply anyway to do flight attendant. Yeah, for a couple years. And flight attendants work like nurses for the most part. So it's like 3 days on, 4 days off kind of type of thing. So I set my eBay handling time to 4 days, and then I'm off. I come back, I ship when I get back. Like that's kind of like that's been floating around in my head for a while. Like I can still do this business, have fun, and I can thrift in other places, which is cool. And I get to see the United States, see the world, and all at the same time of doing what I love. So that's kind of where my mind is right now. But I'm sure a year from now, I'm going to look back at this and laugh because that's not where anything happened. Because I mean, COVID happened and threw everybody's plans up in the air, right? Like I never thought this is where I would be. So, but essentially, in some capacity, I do want Cuberly Chaos to live on in whatever way that means in the future. But yes.
I love that. And I love the flight attendant idea. That's genius, honestly. Assuming there's no other pandemic, like
yeah, right.
But yeah, that is so smart, honestly. I love it. You are so smart, Chloe.
Oh, thank you.
You are. I just had to say it,
Thank you.
So before we wrap things up, is there anything else you would like to share with the viewers? Anything maybe you want to share with anyone who may be in a similar situation as you, going to college and contemplating to start reselling? Anything specifically for Gen Z, and anything you want to throw out there before we wrap things up?
I think the biggest thing I would say is I kind of said it already, but don't hold yourself to such a high standard all the time. Yeah. If you're not feeling okay one day and you're like, I really have to get 20 things listed, but you're really just not there, like, it's okay. Nobody's going to die. Like, I think I'm a really big advocate for mental health. So I think that is something that isn't really talked about in the reseller world a lot. Yeah. And I think that owning your own business in any capacity is lonely. It's hard. It's not glamorous. And it really does take a toll on your mental health, especially when you're not seeing the outcome. Yeah. When you're doing all this work and then summer slowdown hits and you're just in this rut, like, why am I doing this? This feels stupid and purposeless and all this stuff. So I think in those moments, just remind yourself why you're here, and maybe take some time off. Don't be afraid to say, you know what, maybe I just put my closet on vacation mode for a month and I kind of live my life and make myself happy. Because if you're not happy with reselling, don't do it. Yeah. Like, that's all I'm going to say. Not if you're not happy like one day, but if it's been a month and nothing about reselling is putting a smile on your face, you could make the same amount of money doing something way easier. So like, do not, if you don't like it, don't do it. Like, always try it, but I would recommend get out now if you hate it, because it's not for everyone. It really isn't. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It's not.
And that is honestly such good life advice for any job, but also literally any situation, if you can get out of something safely, if it's not like a life or death situation, like if you can get out, get out. Like,
and sooner rather than later. Like, you don't want to look back and be like, I just wasted 10 years of my life, and for 9 of them I knew I was like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and I know exactly what you mean, because I feel like that about my other job. As much as I love so many aspects of it, it was overdue to get out, and in a way, getting out the way I am getting out, which there's going to be a video about that. But it's just like, I feel like, okay, at some point in my life, I'm going to look back on this and be like, yeah, they did me a favor by, doing me the way they did, which I'm not okay with for now, but
you will be. And I think
will be.
That's another life thing is someone that I respect very greatly that I barely know, but I was crying in the hallway one day over something. They found me and they told me this, and I'll never forget it. They related life to like a Christmas tree with ornaments. And so I was down because I had a whole life plan to do theater and drama and everything. And that just kind of came crashing down on one particular day that I realized I just couldn't do it. And I had felt like I wasted 17 years of my life. I was like, I just wasted all this time. And I was getting down on myself. And she told me, think of it like ornaments. Like, you wouldn't be who you are today if you didn't have that shoe ornament on that tree. You'd look different, right? Like, everything you do in life is an ornament, and everything happens for a reason. So you have all these ornaments now, and you can do what you want with it. Like, you're never going to forget what you did, and it made you who you are. So even if you like, you did reselling for a year and you don't like it and you're like, I want to get out, but I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to feel like I'm wasting my time. You didn't waste your time. If you keep going now that you know you shouldn't, yeah, you're probably wasting your time. You shouldn't, right? Like if you know it's time to quit, it's time to quit, right? Like know when to hold them, know when to fold them. Okay. So, but don't be down on yourself for quitting if it's not for you. That's
that. The ornament thing, such a beautiful imagery, which love that. I'm sitting here like, oh my God. And we know these things on some level, but sometimes somebody just needs to rephrase it and we're like, oh yeah.
You just need someone to tell you it in that way and you're like,
yeah,
genius.
On that note, let's end with the beautiful imagery of the ornament in the tree. I will remember that now. Thank you, Chloe, for sharing that. I love it. You are so wise, seriously. How'd you get so wise? I don't know. Not that wise at 21, man. Anyway, so everybody who's watching, you should subscribe to Chloe's channel because she does have a lot of videos up. And even if she's being inconsistent, which she admits, she still has a lot of fun videos to watch. I always have a good time watching your channel. And I'm not just saying that because we're hanging out here.
Because you have to.
It's like, I really love watching your channel. You have so much like positive energy where it's like, you cannot watch your videos and not have a smile on your face. So, and I think that is a talent and a great skill to have that you probably don't even, you don't even need to try. That's just who you are. So yeah. I think it's lovely, and keep doing what you're doing. And if you don't feel like doing YouTube, don't do it. But like you said,
take my own advice, right?
Right, exactly. But if you have the platform, you have the basis, and pop back in whenever you feel like it. And I think that's so important, especially with YouTube. Like people can tell when you're pretending and when your heart is not in it. It's just they can tell, and then what's the point, right? And YouTube should be fun, really. I know it's a way to make money for a lot of people too, but it should also be fun. Yeah.
Again, don't do it if you're not having fun.
Exactly. So, of course, all of Chloe's information is going to be linked down below. I will make sure to have all the links to all the things, and the podcast and the Instagram and the YouTube and all of that. I will collect those from you. And thank you so much for taking the time. This was such a fun conversation.
Thank you. I love that you're doing these series. I have to catch up, but it was so fun. I feel so honored to be here. So.
Oh, of course. I'm so excited that you said you were interested, and I'm like, yes, this is going to be great. All right. Well, goodbye, Chloe, and thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.